information about the MCB Honors Concentration. I want to say a couple of things right off the bat. If you are a biochemistry student and you're planning on staying as biochemistry as your major, you cannot be in the MCB Honors Concentration. So if that applies to anyone here, I guess you might as well leave. Because if you want more information because you think you might be changing your major, then that's fine. You're welcome to stay. And the other thing is we will be having an application period this semester, and I will talk about that at the end of this presentation. The application period this semester is for current sophomores and transfer students. So if you're in either of those categories, this may be the time for you to apply. If you are a first semester freshman, I'm glad you're here so that you can get this information so that you're prepared, but your actual application period will not happen until the spring semester. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today are, I'm going to give you some overview, a little bit of background about the MCB Honors Concentration, who is eligible to apply, what the requirements are, what I look at for admission, what you need to do once you're accepted, how do you complete the program, and how I'll talk a little bit about how it overlaps with James Scholar, and then a little bit about the process. I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning. I'm Dr. Shana Naidu. I am the coordinator of the MCB Honors Concentration, and I am also an academic advisor in MCB. I got my background, I got my biology degree as an undergrad at Washington University in St. Louis, and then I came here for graduate school, and I got my master's and PhD in plant biology here on this campus. I worked as a scientist for a while, as a postdoc and a research scientist, and I started this job I've been doing this job about 10 years now. And I really enjoy this job. I get to interact a lot with students, you guys, and it's really the best part about the job. So that's just a little bit about me. What are the benefits of the Honors Concentration? This program is really designed for students who are considering further education beyond the undergrad. They're students who may be planning to go to graduate school, or they may be planning to go to professional school like medical school, dental school, vet school, pharmacy, any of those professional programs. You do get some more interaction with faculty. The honors sections are taught by faculty, a mixture of faculty and academic professionals, but it is a small class size, and the people who teach your classes are really dedicated to teaching undergrads. You get to do more contact with and exploration of the material, but not on a direct basis. Most of the material that you will deal with in the honors section is sort of supplemental to what's going on in lecture. So this is, if any of you are, how many of you are familiar with the merit program? Okay, this is not merit. Okay, in the merit program, you will go more in depth in the actual material that's covered in lectures. You might be getting extra worksheets, extra time on task with that material. This is not like that at all. This is way beyond, it's extra. It really is supplemental to what's happening in class. I think one of the things that, I have a few honor students here in the back who are, I'm going to invite them up at the end so you can ask questions of them. And I think one of the things that the honor students universally tell me that they like best about this program is the cohort of honor students. So you will take the same discussion sections together with the same group of students for 3 semesters, and you will get to know each other very well. And usually everybody gets along really well, so that's a good thing. People become really close-knit and really friendly. And I have to probably remove that from the slide, the smaller class size, because it may or may not end up being a smaller class size. We've now had such an expansion of the program that this current cohort that's in now is a full section of 24 students. But sometimes you may have the opportunity to have smaller classes. You do usually get a more experienced TA in your discussion and lab sections. They try to put a more experienced TA with the honor section, so that can sometimes really be of huge benefit. But that's so that covers that. Let's see. So It's a subcategory of the MCB major, and as I said before, you can't be an MCB Honors and remain a biochemistry major or an IB major. Nor can you do a double major with biochemistry or IB. But if you are a biology student who's not yet decided whether you're MCB or IB, or you're an MCB major, if you're accepted into the program, we'll simply switch your major to MCB Honors. If you're not a biology major already, if you're coming from chemistry or somewhere else, you still have to meet our declaration criteria for MCB, which is your minimum grade in MCB 150. But if I accepted you for honors, you would meet all of those because our levels are higher than the just to go into the major. And if you are planning to do a double major or dual degree, then MCB Honors has to be the primary one, which again, if you're coming from another major. If you have a question about coming from a different major other than biology or MCB Honors, just ask me later and I can answer that for you. Okay, so ideally, by the time you actually apply, you should have completed or currently be enrolled in MCB 150 on this campus. So if you're taking MCB 150 this semester, great, you'll apply next semester. If you're taking IB 150 this semester, no problem, you'll apply next semester while you're taking MCB 150, okay? We do sometimes, and this I have to put this in just for technicality's sake, although it doesn't happen very often, we will allow transfer of proficiency credit for MCB 150 as long as you're a biology major to begin with. Otherwise, you can't come into MCB without taking this course, and so we have to let that be a requirement. But that typically doesn't apply to very many students. You do have to earn a grade of B+ or better in MCB 150 to be accepted to the program. If you're currently enrolled, like if you're applying next semester and you're taking MCB 150 that semester, I will look at your midterm grades to see that you're on track to meet this goal. If at that point you are offered a position, it will be contingent upon meeting this goal at the end of the semester. Okay, so it's important for those of you who are taking MCB 150 this semester to understand that you have to earn this grade in order to apply next semester. And I will tell you that I expect it to be pretty competitive in the spring, and I expect in this past group and in years past, most students who are accepted have an A- or better in the class. Okay, also we're looking for your chemistry grades to also be on that level. The reason why we're looking for these grades is they tend to be very strong predictors of future performance in the major. If you can do well in your first semester of chemistry and biology MCB 150, then chances are you're going to proceed to do well in the major. If these are a struggle, then the rest of the major can often be a struggle too. Okay, so freshmen should apply in the spring semester. Typically, students who are planning to take MCB 250 or 251 in the fall of your sophomore year. If you're planning to take 250 or 251 this coming spring, you may also apply in the spring, and then you'll be in the offset timeline, which I'll talk about in just a minute. If you are a current sophomore or a transfer student, you would apply as soon as possible, preferably before or while taking MCB 250, 251. Okay. Yeah, so applying later will only really affect students if there's still a possibility for them to finish all the coursework. Okay. This is what we typically look for students, and I've already mentioned a couple of these things. So evidence of appropriate preparation typically includes ACT scores of 29 or higher, an average cumulative GPA in math and science courses of a 3.5 or higher, the B+ or better in MCB 150, and B or better in any chemistry courses, and then a motivation for honors work. And how is that determined? You will have to write a couple of essays on the application. They're pretty short, 300 words maximum each, and an interview if you make it pass the first level of screening, you'll be asked for an interview. And in those 2 ways, and also the letter of recommendation, we are able to sort of determine whether you're really motivated to do the work. I will say too that don't panic if you feel like your HCT score isn't at that level. People still get in with lower. That's only one thing that I look at, and it's really not weighted nearly as heavily as all the other things, especially the things that you do on this campus. And I don't look at high school GPAs, and I also no longer look, I used to look at AP testing. I don't look at that anymore because I have learned over the years that some people have the resources to take 10 different AP exams and other people don't, and it really does not necessarily predict your performance later on just because you were able to pay the fees to take 10 tests and somebody else didn't take any or only took 1. So I kind of don't really look at AP credit anymore either. Then the application, yes, go ahead.
In regards to the ACT score, will we have to like submit?
No, absolutely not. I, because of my job, I have access to your record. So by filling out the application, you're essentially giving me permission to look at all that information. And so I will look up your ACT score, I will look up your first semester grades, and I will also have access and be able to see any midterm grades that are submitted. Now, not every instructor submits a midterm grade, which they're supposed to, but they don't always do that. As a freshman, and you all may not know this because you're new, but freshmen, first and second semester, are supposed to get assigned midterm grades. You're supposed to be able to see how you're doing and assess. After that, no. Nobody gives midterm grades beyond that. And midterm grades can also be somewhat misleading because sometimes there's nothing to base the grade on at the time that they submit the grade. So really it's maybe a couple of homeworks, which isn't really much. Or sometimes it's 1 exam and you have 2 more exams at a final. So just because you did poorly on the first exam doesn't necessarily mean, you know. Luckily, for MCB 150, the course coordinator does a really good job of trying to really incorporate everything that you've had up until that point. So it includes all the homeworks, your discussion grades, your midterm exam and everything. So it really is a pretty good ballpark of where you are at that point. But for other classes, kind of hard to know. Okay, so what are the requirements for completing the honors concentration? You have to fulfill all the requirements of the standard MCB major. Now, if any of you have already looked into or intend to look into the IB Honors Concentration as an option, their program is a bit different because they do require some different coursework and some extra coursework in terms of like math and the supporting coursework, the math, the physics, and things like that. In the MCB Honors Concentration, all of your supporting coursework is the same as the standard major. And you take all of the same, they also take a separate set of core courses that are special for just honors. All our core courses you would take were the same courses, okay? So that part is the same. Okay, so then there are 5 honors discussion sections. Now in the past, this part's going to get a little complicated, so don't stress too much about it. In the past, the honors discussion sections were paired directly with the core courses. And you took them always at the same time because actually they were linked together. We've now since uncoupled them. So we still have 5 honors discussion sections, but, and you still have to take them in order. So there's 297 A, B, and C, they have to be taken in order. And then there's 298 A and B, and they have to be taken in order. But you don't necessarily have to pair them with the core courses, although that's the ideal way to do it. Okay? So 297 A, B, and C. And what are those about? So in those, it's a 1 hour a week discussion. And basically for this series, it's about reading and critiquing primary research literature. In the first semester, you may read 1 paper every 2 or 3 weeks. You sort of go at it kind of slowly to sort of understand what the different parts are, how you critique it. In the second semester, you probably go a little faster. You might build up to 1 paper every week. And then in the third semester, I think they're going to start introducing what is a grant proposal, what is a review paper, some bigger concepts of scientific writing as well. You will do a lot of presentations in the sense that you will be expected to talk about in class in front of the other students a part of the paper. So you get a lot of practice doing oral presentations in this class. And you're expected to come to class actually prepared by having actually read the paper and put some thought into it. The classes are, even if it's only 24 students, it's relatively small, and if you don't participate in the discussion, it's going to be noted. So they want students who are really going to participate in the discussions. In 298 A and B, this is the series that I teach. My class has been redesigned over the years, and right now we're pretty much focused on a project-based learning. So you have a semester-long project, and actually that project for the first semester is going to be carried on into the second semester. And it really talks about applying science. So you learn how to do experiments and things in the lab, but this is about what you do in the real world. How do you apply that knowledge? How do you develop an idea for something that you might want to create with science? And I also focus a lot on skills that you need to learn to be successful in the modern world that you may not always get a chance to do in many of your other science courses. So we focus a lot on teamwork. Most of the work we do in my class is larger teams, 4 to 5 to 6 students. And we do some personal reflection on what it is to be successful as a member of a team. I also really have become focused on developing creativity in science. I think it's something that's often really neglected in the science curriculum, and yet it's very important for the creation of new and novel ideas. So we focus on that as well. The honors discussions are 1 credit each, have to be taken in consecutive order. There is some flexibility in scheduling so that if you really do have a class that you have to take or want to take really for your minor or something, there is some flexibility in delaying those sections till a subsequent semester. But preference will be given to those who are taking them without interruption, and so it's possible that it would be full the next semester. So you should always consult me if you're planning on interrupting the sequence for some reason or another. So, the typical timeline is to take the following courses paired with each other. So you would take 250 when you're taking 297A, 251, 298A, etc. Just like that. That's a 3-semester sequence. For those of you who might be a sophomore, currently a sophomore, or a transfer student who is currently enrolled in 250 and 251, you would be taking things in the offset sequence. So, I'm missing 250 and 2, yeah. So you would take 250 and 251 without any of the honors discussion sections, and then you would move on to be taking 252 with 297A, etc. So there is a means for doing that. Must be taken in order, so that's the key part. Now, any questions before I move on about the honors discussion sections? There's one more part I didn't talk about. So when you're enrolled in 250, you will be taking a regular discussion section just like every other student. That is separate from the honors discussion section. However, there is a section that's designated specifically for honors students so that all of you are taking it together, even though you're doing the same thing as everybody else. And the same thing goes true with the lab. So there's a designated honors lab section. The reason we do that is to preserve the cohort aspect and also to allow you to earn honors credit for those courses. So you're doing the extra work in the honors discussion section, but you're earning honors credit for the course in general. If you can't make those sections for some reason, because they don't fit in your schedule, then you have to talk to me and we have to do some paperwork and make everything happen. So there's ways for that too. Any questions about the honors discussion sections before I move on to the next part? Okay, so that's the main core, I guess I would say, of the honors concentration. In addition to that, in order to complete the program, you have to complete what we call 4 advanced honors courses. And there are several options for those. And one of those can be that you take an extra advanced MCB course from the list. So as part of your major requirements, you have to take 15 hours of advanced MCB courses, one of which has to be an advanced LAN. That's about 5 courses. So if you take those 5 courses and then take one more on top of that, it can count in this category. So you can do that once, but not more than once. So you can't just say, oh, I'll just take 4 extra MCB courses and I'll be done. No, you have to distribute your selections amongst the options on this list. That one can only be done once. You can do an honors project in your advance. So if, of those 5 courses you're taking, you can choose one of them and do an honors project. How many of you are James Scholars? Okay, this would be doing an HCLA in a course. You go up to the professor and you say, I'm an honors student, I'd like to do an honors project in your class. Some professors will say, sorry, I don't do that. So you go ask a different professor. But a lot of professors will say, great, let's meet together and talk about what honors project you'd like to do. So you and the professor together will come up with a project. If you are not a James Scholar, if you make it into MCB Honors, you should self-nominate because chances are you'll be qualified, so you will be. If you are still not a James Scholar after that, we have separate paperwork you can do to still get this and get your honors credit for this. Okay, research. So MCB 290, undergraduate research, if you take it for a minimum of 2 credit hours, we will count that towards your 4 courses and we will count that up to 2 times. So if you're the kind of student who's really interested in doing research or already involved in research, it makes it really easy to start getting these things because you can count MCB 290 up to 2 times. Yes?
Can you still do research if you're not enrolled in MCB 290?
No. Yes and no. Okay, so yes, welcome to do research as much as you like. It won't count for honors if it's not 290. It has to be MCB 290. Now, a lot of students are doing research in another lab that could qualify as MCB 290. So let's say you're doing molecular biology, you're doing Western blots, you're doing animal or human physiology studies. If it's anything that could be considered something that would be an MCB, then you fill out certain paperwork, you explain it, and you can get it counted as MCB 290.
Okay.
So you can do that. Yes?
Any year? Freshman, sophomore?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So even if you have started research now, you did it your first semester freshman year, but you didn't get accepted to honors for next semester, I can still count that first one that you did. So it doesn't have to be done afterwards, yes.
So the 2 credit hours don't have to be taken the same semester?
Yes, they do. So it has to be a minimum of 2 credits for me to count it. But most of the time, if you're only taking 1 credit, like now, like the first semester, you can take 2 credits the next semester. It's no big deal. Most people who start early are going to do it all the way through anyway. If it's in the summer, it can be 1 credit because summer is different. I have a lot of students doing research all over campus. Kinesiology is very popular. Chemistry, psychology is also very popular, and vet med. Those are probably the most common ones that I see outside of MCB. So next one on the list also relates to research, which is senior thesis, and that's another reason why it needs to be MCB 290. If you are interested in applying to graduate with distinction, there are multiple levels of distinction, and they all have a minimum GPA. The lowest one, you could do 3 semesters of 290, present a poster, and get just research distinction. But if you want high or highest distinction, you have to write a thesis. And in order to write a thesis, you have to have also done MCB 290 for a minimum of 2 semesters before you do your senior thesis. Okay. And but this will also count for honors. And in fact, I count it for honors whether you submit for distinction or not. So there's also a thing where you just write the thesis, but you don't qualify for distinction for some reason or another, but you can still count this. doesn't really happen anymore. The MCB 493 special topics, we have some courses that are taught under special topics that are sort of, it's a temporary placeholder for courses, and then at some point they'll become a regular actual course with its actual number. But usually those courses are already approved for advanced hours, and so if they are, then I don't count it in this category. But if we were to have a 493 that was not approved for advanced hours, it was just like, oh, that's an interesting class, but we're not sure if it's going to be advanced hours, but, you know, do you want to take it? This encourages you to take it because you can count it in this category. But I haven't seen one for a couple of years now. Study abroad. MCB has 2 discipline-specific study abroad programs. One of them is a year abroad in Newcastle, England, and the other one is a semester abroad in Stockholm, Sweden. Both of those programs are designed specifically to allow you to take advanced coursework there that will actually transfer back here and count as advanced courses in your major. So you do not get behind if you do those programs. I will count that as one of your honors things as well, so you're not also getting behind in honors. Those are great programs if you're interested in them. You should definitely watch out for our workshop, which will be coming up on that at some point. And if you're interested in a study abroad for some other reason, I can't count it for honors, but don't let that discourage you. If you're careful in planning and you don't have too much on your plate, you could probably fit that into. I've had lots of students do study abroad for outside of MCB as well. So it is something that's a possible thing for you to do. Another option is, there's a handful of our MCB advanced courses. They're mostly in microbiology that have a graduate student discussion section. So if you're a graduate student taking the course, it would be required for you. And those professors will often let honors students take that discussion section so that they can earn honors credit for their course. So that's a category as well. And then the last one is, I have a special list of courses that are of interest to students in our major because they are related to molecular cellular biology in some way, but they're not taught in our department. They're taught in other departments around campus. And it's been approved by our curriculum committee that honors students can take these to get one of their honors credits. There's several in IB, there's an advanced statistics course, some things like that. So I give students a copy of that so they can keep an eye on that if that's something that interests them. Now, and I did say before, you can repeat the 290, but only 2 times, and everything else has to be pretty standard. Let's see. One other thing that I think I didn't mention is the advising. So MCB Honors Concentration students are required to meet with me for advising at least once a semester. If you were at the new student welcome yesterday, you may have heard that we don't assign advisors in MCB, and we also don't require advising in MCB. There are 2 exceptions to that. One is if you end up on probation, you have to come. And we usually assign you to an advisor. The other one is if you're an honors student, you have to come, and we assign you to an advisor, and that advisor is me. So you have to come and see me at least once a semester so that I can help you plan your courses for the next semester. I try to help you make sure you're not taking too much, but you're taking enough to stay on track. And all of these things are really somewhat complicated when you first look at them, but as you go through, I keep you on track. I know what you need to do, and we talk about them as they become relevant each semester. So you won't have to worry too much about figuring all this out on your own, okay? James Scholar. So, this program does overlap really well with James Scholar. If you are proceeding through the program in the normal fashion, you will have more than enough things on your schedule to meet your James Scholar requirements, all the way up through, maybe there may be one semester where you might have to take something that's not in MCB. So you get James Scholar credit for the core courses as long as you're taking them concurrently with a 297 or 298. You also, you'll get 3 hours for each lecture course, 2 hours for the lab courses in terms of honors hours. You also will get honors hours for the 297 and the 298, although they will not count as a course in terms of points for James Scholar, because it's only 1 credit. The advanced course, if you're doing an honors project or you're doing honors discussion section, you get credit for that. You get credit for MCB 290, you get credit for 492, so you can see that there's a lot of overlap with James Scholar. It's really pretty easy to make that work. So if you are accepted to the program, you are required to maintain a minimum of a 3.5 cumulative or a 3.3 major GPA. If you fall below that, you get a semester of probation to bring it back up, one of those back up to that level. Now, I think I said at the beginning, you do have to have a 3.5 minimum cumulative GPA to be accepted. So by the end of this first semester, you need to have that if you're going to apply for the spring. The higher the better. My students typically graduate by graduating class typically has an average GPA of 3.8. So it takes, the higher GPA, the minimum for being accepted, that may be the minimum, but the actual minimum tends to be higher than that, if that makes sense. You also have to complete the core courses for honors credit. Actually, that's not actually true. You don't have to get honors credit if you're in the off sequence, but you do have to get a grade of B- or better in each of the core courses. So in addition to maintaining your GPA, you have to get a B- or better in each of the core courses and complete all of those with a grade of B- or better as well. Average of 1 honors course per semester, it doesn't really affect anyone, but that just means keep on track. And then see me for advising once a semester. And I will say, I have dismissed at least 2 people over the years for failing to meet that last requirement, which I think is the silliest thing in the world, but it's true. I hound them repeatedly, and yet they never come in to see me. You will get dropped. Okay. Academic integrity. Unfortunately, I have in the past also had to dismiss someone for being being penalized under the academic integrity. We want honor students to not have academic integrity violations, and so that's very important. It's very rare that we have an issue, but it is there. Students ask me this all the time. Does this show up on my diploma? Every MCB student, and every student in a science major in LAS, on your diploma, it does not say your major. It says you have a Bachelor of Science in Liberal Arts and Sciences. So that's what's listed on your diploma. On your transcript, if you're in honors, it will say major in MCB, concentration in MCB honors. So it is actually part of your major. So, application during fall is open now. The application should be open now. It'll be due on the 26th. In the spring, it will be around the month of February. Please watch Roadmap and my website for an announcement on the open application period. Okay. It's available online as a web form, so you click on the link and you go to the web form, you log in with your NetID and password, and you fill out the application. The application is pretty simple for the most part. It just asks you basic questions like, what's your GPA, and when did you take MCB 150, and what's your name, and basic information, and then there are 2 short essays of about 300 words each. Pay attention to the essays. What I really want to see in those essays is your personality. I want to be able to read it and know who you are as an individual, as opposed to the same essay that everybody else is writing. So try to be unique. Try to just show your personality and be really, allow me to be able to see how you might be a good fit for the program. You also have to submit a letter of recommendation. Students are always worried about that. The letter needs to be from a TA or professor on this campus. no letters from high school. If you're a transfer student and you're having a real problem with this because you're applying this semester, let me know and we'll talk. But usually it's not an issue, and it does not have to be from a science professor. I've had some of the best letters from non-science professors. So it really doesn't matter. What you're looking for is someone who you feel you've made a really good impression on, and somebody who can speak to your ability to be a successful honors student. That's who you need your letter to be from. Now, how many of you are in MCB 150 honors section right now? Okay? Oh, only 2 people in this room, so that's okay. A lot of people like to ask Brad for their letter, and that's great. But Brad will give me, he won't write a full letter. He will give, because we have an agreement, that he'll write them, but he will give me his impression in as few sentences as he can. And I, whereas his letter might be super short, I really take his opinion with a lot of value because he usually has really good insight into the students. So usually his letters are like, I think the student's really great, she really stood out in my class, and you know, I have no, I think she'll be a great honor student, you know, she might say a couple other things. Or he might say, I don't really know this student very well, he did really well in the exams, but other than that I haven't really seen him. So obviously that second one is not going to be as good as the first one. So, the letter recommendation needs to be submitted directly to me or brought to me in a signed envelope, just standard letter of recommendation policies. It's listed on the website. There's also a form. Brad doesn't usually fill out the form, so if you're asking Brad, just forget it. But that's okay. I don't hold it against anybody because, like I said, Brad and I have an agreement, and I really respect his opinion. And since I know him so well, I know that he's going to give me the true evaluation. But for everybody else, there's a checklist kind of form. So print that out. It's on the website as well. This is a timeline for this semester, which probably doesn't help most of you, because most of you in here are applying that semester. But basically, I work backwards from priority registration. So many of you are honor students. You register at the first possible registration date, which is priority registration. I intend to have everybody notified as to whether they're in or not at least a week before that. So that's how I work backwards from. So first month of classes is the application period. I give myself a little time to review the applications and then invite students for interviews. That usually takes a while, especially in the spring, because I may have 30 or more students to interview. And then I offer the admission, and then students have to let me know for sure whether they're in or not. So think about who you're going to ask for your letter of recommendation. It could be somebody from this semester, probably better if you're going to apply in the spring, but you can always do somebody from the spring too. Have it submitted to me. The application online will allow you to submit as many as you want, but it won't allow you to delete one. So if you, for some reason, make a mistake, just submit another one. I always just take the last one submitted. Okay? And then you'll hear from me. Any questions? Yes?
So on the previous slide it said September 29th, I think.
Oh, well, whatever it is.
So is it the 26th or 29th?
I don't know.
We'll just go with 26th.
It's a Monday. It's a Monday.
It's the Monday?
It's a Monday.
All right.
I always like to do it on a Monday so people have the weekend to finish it up. So.
It's the Monday at the end of September.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's on the website. I think I got it right there.
Awesome. 26th.
Yeah.
26th.
So this honors concentration will only apply to the classes we take in MCB, nothing with IB, right?
That's right.
Like for now, if I'm taking MCB 150 now, and I can apply in the spring semester while I'm taking IB.
Yes,
Then
absolutely.
I'm just going to keep going in MCB.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Right. Now, some students apply to both IB honors and MCB honors because they're really not sure of what they're going to do. And then after they go through the whole process, they make a decision. I probably lose 1 or 2 students every year who I've accepted who come back and say, actually, I decided to do IB honors instead. It happens, for sure. Their program is very good. It's very different from ours, but it is also a very good, very strong program. It has a lot of really good strengths to it as well. So it's definitely a viable option. Okay, you're welcome to ask further questions of me, but I'm now going to bring up my current honor students who agreed to take time out of their schedule at the beginning of the semester, and I know they're super, super busy, to come and answer questions for you guys. So I'm going to have you guys just introduce yourselves, like tell them what year you are, what your major or majors are, and if you're doing research, basic stuff like that.
Okay, I'm Connor. I'm a junior, MCB Honors. Right now I'm doing research in a biochemistry lab. Dr. Martinez working on amino acyl tRNA synthetases. That's all the question.
So hi, I'm Sri. I'm also an MCB Honors junior, and I'm actually working in Dr. Prashant's lab where we work on tRNAs. RNAs. Trying to find.
Hi, I'm Chala. I'm MCB Honors junior. With political science minor. I just want to throw it out there. I'm working in C11's lab that we have only one on campus.
I'm Tara Stanton. I am a junior, MCB Honors, and hopefully doing minors in chemistry and informatics. I am in Catherine Christian's lab. She's in the medical sciences building, and we are working with epilepsy and seeing whether there's a correlation between infertility in women and men and epilepsy medications.
Hi guys, I'm Nicole. I'm a senior in the Honors Concentration. I do research in Dr. Mary Schuler's lab in cell developmental biology, and what I'm doing there is analyzing proteins that confer insecticide resistant to malaria carrying mosquitoes. And I'll be writing a thesis this spring as well.
So feel free to ask them all the questions that you want to know from actual students.
I'm pre-med if you have any questions about that. I'm pretty sure,
Yeah, I just applied them this week.
yes.
How hard do you guys think it is to balance all clubs and academics, and then on top of having to do all that extra stuff? Is it really stressful, or does it just kind of depend?
So it's not that much extra work. I'd say probably put in 1 or 2 hours for the extra classes per week. So I'd say it's actually fairly easy, but you definitely get a lot out of it.
I would definitely say that the MCB Honors portion of your life isn't contributing as much stress as other portions of your life.
And I could say we help each other out a lot, so it makes everything way easier.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I agree, because we're always together in the honors discussions for the classes, and then the 297s and 298s. So we have group chats where we talk to each other, so it's actually really helpful and it's good.
Yeah, it's nice to be in the same discussion sections for the core courses and the same labs.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows each other really well. There's not really any messing around.
So,
You'll never get a bad partner, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I've heard that it's easy.
Yeah, I'd say it's really easy to balance. I'm involved with social sorority and a pre-medical fraternity on this campus. I'm heavily involved in both, and I've had no problem completing all the work and doing well in the honors concentration.
For you and applying to medical school and that kind of thing, would you say that the MCB Honors Concentration itself was really helpful for that, the application process and the tests and that kind of thing?
Yeah, for the MCAT, I cannot stress how much the MCB Honors has helped. All the reading you do with the scientific papers kind of mimics the passages you'll see on the MCAT. And since I was so exposed to that, I think it made studying for the exam and taking the exam only once really, it helped a lot.
Yeah, starting to study for the MCAT, there's a section on the MCAT called CARS, and it's brutal, but the 297s where you read the primary literature, it's definitely going to help out.
I've heard that time and time again from my students who've already taken, and I will tell you that most of the students who come to me and tell me their scores, and obviously I guess if they didn't do that well, maybe they wouldn't tell me, but they're getting in the 90th percentiles on the test. So, and I really do truly feel that the honors discussion sections are helping with that, for sure.
I actually have to run, sorry guys.
Okay, well thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I hope you all apply at least.
And you had a question?
No doubt.
Yes,
Yeah, I think
that's okay.
So how are the publishing opportunities
the research labs, participating in the research? Are there a lot of opportunities to be on a paper, to do a poster, to be in a symposium? Like how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we have an undergraduate today who actually just like presented in our lab meeting. So I know my PI really encourages like doing your own projects and therefore like finding out your own solutions to things. So I say there are definitely a lot of opportunities. They're very willing to get you involved, like get your hands dirty.
I'd add like the MCB Honors, telling a PI you're interested in working with that you're in the honors concentration will help you get into a lab that publishes quite often. So just having the honors with your name, I would say, is very helpful in getting in a lab you want to work in and publish with.
We've been around long enough now that I think our students have a reputation. And I tell students too, it's your responsibility to uphold that reputation for the people who come behind you as well. And so it is true that I have gotten the question before, can it help you get in a lab? And informally, in that way it does. And in another way, I've had professors who come to me on a regular basis and tell me, oh, I just lost some students, they graduated, I need some more, please send my job ad out to your honor students, because they know that our students are really high quality. And so I will send out, I can keep an email list of students who want a research position, and I send out emails. It's usually 2 or 3 times a semester anymore for labs that are looking for students. And I have had a number of students who do get to be co-authors on publications. Now, that is very highly dependent upon the lab that you're working in, and whether or not that PI sort of philosophically believes that as an undergraduate you are able to do that, and whether they think it's due to, did you do some experiments that can be included? They might make you a co-author, but in some places you are only a co-author if you're actually writing part of the paper, and they may not give you the opportunity to write. So it's very dependent upon the lab that you're in, whether you'll get that opportunity, but I've seen it for sure.
Okay.
For my lab, we haven't published anything yet since I started working there, but the PhD student that I'm working with, she went to a symposium and made a poster, and she chose to put my name on it. Although I didn't write anything on that poster, I just did some stuff that she used. So.
Yeah, and even if you're not publishing during your undergraduate career, if you decide to wait until graduate or something, you still have that experience from 297 of understanding how primary literature is written, so that'll definitely give you an upper hand.